Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman of the Football History Dude podcast, and I'm stopping by this show real quick to tell you about a couple of cool giveaways that we have going on here at the network. Both are autographed books covering various topics of the NFL. The first is The Point After: How One Resilient Kicker Learned There Is More to Life Than the NFL by ex-NFL kicker Sean Conley. It goes over his unique experience as a walk-on kicker at the University of Pitt after never playing high school football. And then it gets into some of his time playing for NFL teams and so much more beyond the gridiron. The other is from author Kevin Bryant. His book is titled Spies on the Sidelines: The High-Stakes World of NFL Espionage. This book started as a curiosity, kind of a passion project to understand everything revolving around, well, Spygate. But this put Kevin down a rabbit hole learning about all sorts of espionage that has occurred throughout the history of the NFL. Both permissible and often the illicit techniques of gathering intel to try to impact the outcome of the game. To sign up for your chance to win an autographed copy of one of these books, all you gotta do is head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways and sign up. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways. Again, check out all the other podcasts that we have in the Sports History Network as well. But now, back to your regularly scheduled journey to the sports history timeline.
We share a moment of pivotal time in history and at the same time a crucial milestone instance for professional football. But not many were aware of the importance as items happening around the globe greatly overshadow them. We're going to bring this moment to life and let you know what happened some 80-odd years ago. Stories coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with PigskinDispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pigpen, your portal to positive football history. And, you know, I've been reminiscing just a little bit, been a little melancholy about some of my childhood years and how much I enjoyed the game of football as just such a purist look at it, you know, from a child's eyes, a teenager's eyes, compared to what we have now. You know, collecting football cards and, you know, baseball cards and things like that were just so much fun. And then I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about the football cards, and we started talking about the gum. And, you know, how many people tried that gum? I, for one, I tried the gum, and I'll tell you what, I think maybe the card tasted a little bit better than the gum. Maybe you have some good experiences with that. But I did enjoy, you know, some of the gums that I did enjoy. I like Bazooka Joe. I like the comic books. I like the gum. Football card gum, baseball card gum, not so much. I don't know what they did. I think they processed the same way they did the cardboard cards. But anyhow, I was reading through a pretty amazing book recently in my collection of gridiron history books. And Joe Horgan's NFL Century, the 100-year rise of America's greatest sports league. It came out just before COVID, I believe 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. And Joe is the former Pro Football Hall of Fame executive. And he takes the reader through a timeline of National Football League history filled with wonderful little insights and stories that really help shape the NFL and that we know and love today. Now, one of these stories takes us all the way back to 1939. And Joe's this story was really an inspiration for me putting together this podcast and writing the article on PigskinDispatch.com. Now, it's a pretty incredible year in the world, 1939. You know, of course, you know, Nazi Germany had just invaded Poland that year. The Wizard of Oz debuted at the theaters. You know, they were finally getting a touch of a little bit of color movies along with the black and white. It came out across the country and it was a big hit, just like it sort of is today. Everybody knows it. And New York City was hosting the World's Fair, just a few of the big items going on in the world. Now, Joe Horgan points to the World's Fair, and it's putting the latest technology on display as being a key element for the game of pro football. Now you have to stop and think about that for a second and listen. Now, even though not too many people were aware of it at the time, it was a very pivotal moment in pro football history. At the RCA Pavilion, company president David Sarnoff used this grand stage at the pavilion of the World's Fair to introduce the future of home entertainment to the masses: television. Just to prove the reality of TV, RCA workers had some television set up around the pavilion, and they put the camera on some willing participants to demonstrate that this was not a hoax or a man behind the curtain like in the Wizard of Oz trick, but a real technological breakthrough. As a matter of fact, I think Joe Horgan says that the people that were getting on TV, they were giving like a certificate or something to say, hey, I was on television, RCA Pavilion. You know, something, a memento they could hang on their wall and go home and tell their friends and family about. Now, they even went a step further later in the World's Fair as RCA and broadcasting partner NBC decided to announce that all of the home games of the Brooklyn Dodgers football franchise in the NFL at Ebbets Field, New York, in that fall would be televised. The first game up was the Dodgers was entertaining the Philadelphia Eagles on October 22nd by NBC on an experimental station, W2XBS, and the signal would be beamed from the game venue directly to the RCA Pavilion at the World's Fair, some 40 miles away, and probably to whoever may have a set. There probably weren't too many people who had the television sets at their homes in New York City. Now, this is an interesting game that they did. You know, the game, as reported by the papers, as being a pretty good one. You know, Dodgers quarterback, Hall of Famer Ace Parker was brilliant. He completed pass after pass to a glue-fingered Perry Schwartz. Now, he completed only 8 passes on 19 attempts, I believe, on that day, but that was quite a bit of throwing exhibition in that era. Pug Manders ran the ball hard, scoring a touchdown, while kicker Ralph Kercheval knocked through 3 fairly long field goals to lead Brooklyn's 11 over their Philly visitors 23-14 in front of a paid attendance of 13,051. A little bit disappointing there. Now, there was barely any fanfare or press releases on this milestone accomplishment. I went through the papers. It sounds like Joe Horgan went through also, and he could narrowly find anything in the newspapers within the days prior or after that was, you know, making this big fanfare build up that, hey, first television of a pro game on TV. And it wasn't even after the game's write-up or anything like that. I couldn't find it either. I combed through newspapers.com. I could not find much myself. Now, Horgan points out that the news of free tickets for the game being given to 2,000 orphans from 11 different institutions across the greater New York City area by the Dodgers owner Dan Topping. That was the big news. They gave those kids a chance to come watch a game. So 2,000 of 13,000, not real good. There were free tickets. Now, later information was that the broadcast was filled with issues. The cloudy day wreaked havoc on the cameras, which were 2 ionoscopes. As the picture would grow darker and darker from when it got lighter and lighter out, and then they would try to adjust the equipment, and the cloud would come over the sun, and they were just having a heck of a time getting a good picture. It wasn't as technologically advanced as our cameras today. Also, the equipment was handheld. And the camera operators, it said, were having trouble following kicks and punts as they tried to brace their chins against a very cold metal railing at the stadium to try to steady the picture. Just imagine that. Think about that when you're trying to film your kid at a soccer game or a football game, and you're trying to hold your telephone camera to do it. Not real pretty like it is on the television picture. Those guys are masters at it now with all the boom cameras and everything else they have, the tripods. This wasn't the first televised football game. It was the first televised professional football game. And this was only about 3 weeks after the initial broadcast of a gridiron contest, though. On September 30th that year, at Fordham College opened up their season by taking on Waynesburg College. The New York Times had some much larger stories at the time, but they did cover the game highlights in their October 1st, 1939 edition, according to the NCAA.com, a story article that they have on it. The game was a blowout as Fordham, a powerhouse at the time, was killing poor Waynesburg. There was one small bit of commentary in the article, though, that had a much bigger meaning than imagined at the time. And it said, quote, Fordham had the televised game well in hand by halftime, end quote. That's the only mention of television being at the game at all. Just Fordham had the televised game well in hand by halftime. That's the only way a reader, almost 100 years later, would be reading about this. I think we give more write-ups that the games are televised now, when all the games are televised, than they did back then. And we expect to have video on every single game, for something. But there was a lot of things that the World's Fair did besides television. This was a world of tomorrow was their theme. And definitely television, they weren't that far off in their description, because television is such a big part of our lives. But besides television, some other pretty cool things were on display and introduced to the world at that 1939 New York World's Fair. The first fluorescent light and fixture. They had a Superman Day. The comics first released in 1933. Remember, this is 39, by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. They were a huge success, and they had kids compete in some activities to see who was the best boy, best girl, I guess athletically, to be called Superman. There was the first World Science Fiction Convention at the World's Fair. Nylon fabric was introduced. A keyboard-operated speech synthesizer was introduced to the world. The Viewmaster. How many of us remember those when we were kids? Those were like the little movie things you could hold in your hand and see all the little pictures on those little round discs. So a very cool thing. Centivision was invented and introduced at this time, which was later replaced by Smell-O-Vision. A streamlined pencil sharpener was brought out. A futuristic car-based city by General Motors was on display, and the first fully constructed computer game came out in the 1939 World's Fair. Very interesting. Well, the World's Fair realized that they were demonstrating a world for tomorrow, but the press, NBC, and RCA may have not realized the full potential of television in the game of football. And what a milestone it really was, that October 22nd day, 1939. And I'm glad that Joe Horrigan, in that excellent book that he has out, brought it out. Again, that book's title is NFL Century, The 100-Year Rise of America's Greatest Sports League. So you can find that at Amazon or any other local book dealers. And great book and some great stories in there. We'll try to cover some more things from that in future podcasts. Hope you enjoyed this little bit of history. Hope you'll join us each and every day for some more great football history as we celebrate the game of football every day and bring you the portal of great pigskin glory. So till tomorrow, everybody, have a great gridiron day. That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It was just another ordinary day in the offices of the Pittsburgh Guardian newspaper circa 1924. But for Marla Delft, assistant editor, everything was about to change. For she was about to discover the awesome attractiveness of Row 1 brand retro sports paraphernalia items thanks to Orville Mulligan, sports writer.
And there it is.
Wow, Orville, that's really the bee's knees.
Isn't it just? A poster-sized replica of the actual 1909 World Series program cover.
I can see that. But where did you get it? And where'd you get it framed?
I ordered it from the Row 1 website, where over 6,000 items of sports memorabilia from the 1880s to the 1990s are available for reproduction, in multiple sizes and in several different materials, with over a dozen styles of frame to choose from for prints like this.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Delft would love to put up more of these in the office. But I'm equally as sure they're beyond this newspaper's budget.
Not at all, my dear Marla. See for yourself. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/row1.
sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. Oh my, these are good prices. Oh, and look at this stuff. Oklahoma-Nebraska football, college basketball art, Michael Jordan items.
And so it
retro
was that
sports
Marla Delft
advertisement
discovered the
flyers.
splendiferous magic of Row 1 sports memorabilia, arts, and prints. You can too by visiting sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. That's ROW1 today for access to the full Row 1 catalog of gallery prints and gifts like t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, telephone cases, coffee mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Act today for 15% discount off all prints with coupon code SHN15 and 20% off all other items with coupon code SHN20 at checkout. And keep your dial locked to the Sports History Network for the exciting chronicles of the 1920 sports world in Orville Mulligan, Sports Writer. Coming soon.